Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. I hope everybody is having a fantastic week so far. Students, in this class we are looking at IELTS Task 1 writing, specifically for the academic IELTS exam. And we are looking at a diagram, or I should say diagrams, on making concrete. Does everybody know what concrete is? Let me know in the chat. This is a members chat class. Of course, everybody is welcome to watch. If you'd like to join this chat, you need to be a channel member. You can become a member by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. Choose the plan that's right for you. Students, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS, visit us there. For the general IELTS, for general IELTS Task 1, visit us at gieltshelp.com. That's where we have all of our general IELTS Task 1 strategies and tips. General IELTS Task 1 writing is different. It's an essay or a letter that you need to write. It's a narrative writing. Academic, of course, is expository writing. If these words are new, expository and narrative, make sure to investigate what that means. Welcome, Anahita. Hi, Fuang. Hi, Domenico. Nice to see our members. Welcome, Carolina, our chat moderator. Students, our websites look like this. This is our general IELTS website here with the green background. You can click this big red button here to join the premium version of our course. It's just right above my head there. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. The academic IELTS website looks like this. It's got the blue background and you can click the same red button there to join the premium version of our course. It's got lots of goodies for you. We are an IDP affiliate. We're a British Council partner. We're an IELTS test registration center. These websites power these live classes. So if you're with us regularly or even just once in a while, it's definitely worth it to join. This is your My Student page. You've got practice exams for the computer-based version of the test. You've got a full online interactive course with over 400 slides to give you tips and strategies on how to master English communication and the IELTS exam. And we use these websites to talk with students as well. We're going to have a live class on the academic website tomorrow. By clicking this blue button tomorrow, there will be a live class here, and that's going to be lots of fun. That will be a speaking class for everybody. We have this code that you can use on the websites, bar9, to get an extra 10% discount. That's also in the chat. And you can download our apps and link the apps to the websites, Academic IELTS Help, General IELTS Help. And of course, you can purchase the courses through YouTube as well by clicking on shopping. And then you can click on the products and you should see them there. Okay. Instagram, IELTS_AE Help, over 100,000 followers there. GIELTS Help. Instagram has vocabulary for you, little short videos, and reels, they're called, and lots of information, including the live class schedules. If you have questions about IELTS or about your studies, we welcome your questions. Send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. Now, we have task 1 for you again coming up right now, and then we have task 2 after this class. That will be a subscribers chat class, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free, it's effective, and you get notifications of these live classes. Again, on Saturday, Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got speaking part 2 for members on YouTube, and then as denoted by our logo here, we've got speaking part 3 for everyone on the website on aehelp.com, and we'll be doing more and more live classes there in the coming days and weeks. We've got a really good task 1 bar graph video for you on YouTube, so check that out. Here's the link for that. I'll put it into the chat for everybody watching the video now and later. We're looking at a question today. It's an oldie but a goodie. This was an IELTS academic question a number of years ago. This question actually comes from the IELTS Book 8 from Cambridge, Past Papers. And the diagram looks like this. Here we go. So if you're wondering about what concrete is, did anybody answer that question for me? Not really. Domenico says, I'm currently in LA and it's chilly here. Domenico, I bet it's colder for me here than you in LA. All right. So here is our diagram. I might be able to get this a little bit smaller so a little bit more of it fits into the screen. Let's try that. You'll be able to see it a little bit clearer. This is what a diagram will look like for you in the IELTS exam, especially if you're doing the paper-based version. And as you can see, this diagram has, of course, 2 pieces to it. So it's got kind of this piece on the left and then another diagram on the right. And of course, the 2 diagrams are related to each other. Why? Because we can see here that the first diagram deals with cement production, and then the next diagram here deals with concrete production, and one of the key ingredients for concrete is cement. So we're going to have to make sure that we mention how these 2 diagrams are related to each other. All right, everybody. So we're going to do this together. I will give you strategies and tips on how to get a high band score for task 1 when you see a diagram like this. So pay attention and participate, members. I'd like to see some sentences from you as we do it. Okay. First steps first, read the question carefully. Now, an interesting tip or caution here, the writing comes after the reading section of the exam, okay? And the reading section of the exam is 1 hour, and a lot of students are rushing by the end of the reading section to answer all the questions, to finish all the reading. So it's really important that as you start the writing section, you take a deep breath and you realize that you have to read these questions carefully. Don't rush through them. Don't continue with the same speed that you are using at the end of the reading section. All right, here we go. So IELTS writing task 1. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task. Don't spend more than 20 minutes, only 20 minutes, because you need to spend 40 minutes on task 2. You cannot take time from task 2 to finish task 1. Okay? The examiners do not tell you when the 20 minutes are up, so you have to pay attention to the clock on the computer screen in the computer-based version, or in the room. There should be a clock in the paper-based version. You need to pay attention and finish in 20 minutes. If you're not completely done the essay, then you need to just wrap it up, give one last sentence, and then go to task 2. Okay, here we go. So the following diagrams depict the steps and materials needed to produce concrete. Report the main features and make comparisons where relevant. All right, the question seems simple enough, so we can just jump right into it. Task 1 has 3 important parts. Okay, and most of you know this. It is the introduction, the overview, and the analyses. Now the analyses, or the analysis is plural, should also contain a summary at the end. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. It's not a conclusion, it's just a simple summary. Okay, so for the introduction, and this is a little bit of review for some, but it's an important review, you need to paraphrase the question and give details from the diagram, or in this case the diagrams. Okay, all right, so that's the introduction. It should be pretty quick. You should not have to take too much time on the introduction. Maybe like a minute, 2 minutes. Okay, so fast here. All right. Okay, let's do it. Members, let's do this together. So here's the question. The following diagrams, there's two, depict the steps and materials needed to produce concrete. Okay. These two diagrams, instead of diagrams, we can use other words. What would be a good word to use instead of diagram here? Anybody? What would you use? I know what I would use. I don't know if I'd use flowcharts, Domenico. I think they're a little bit different than a flowchart. There isn't really a clear direction, especially in the second one. Pictures, I think, on a Hiterfung is a little bit too general. Okay. I would probably use the word blueprints for this one. Okay. So these are kind of blueprints on concrete production. Blueprints are often dealing with construction, or how some structure is constructed. In this case, you can think about it like the construction of concrete, which is kind of interesting because concrete, of course, is used in construction. So I would actually use these two blueprints. They're kind of the blueprints for how to make concrete, right? Anita says, but they're not colorful. That is okay. Yes, Anita, traditionally blueprints were blue, but we don't associate that anymore. So you're correct. A long time ago, blueprints were always blue. Nowadays, blueprints are not. We still use the word blueprints. Okay. So very clear in English what that means. It means basically a diagram that shows the structure of a process or a building. Okay. And here we have a clear structure for this process or creating concrete. Okay, so I would use blueprints. So these two blueprints indicate. Now, instead of steps, or I should say we could use steps. We could also say stages. But here is where we could add some more detail. Okay. All right. So we have to decide, well, how many steps do we have here, right? So how many do we have? And, you know, this is where you don't have to be too nervous or stressed about getting this number wrong, as long as it's kind of on the right path. So here we have a crusher. Okay. And I'm guessing that this here is the crusher. It crushes. Pay attention to verbs in these types of diagrams. This is a noun, of course, but the crusher crushes. So it's crushing limestone and clay. So then we have a mixer, and one good way to kind of like figure out how many steps or stages there are in the process, look at the number of arrows here. Okay, so the crusher crushes the limestone and the clay. The mixer mixes these ingredients. The rotating heater rotates and heats up this powder or this mixture. And then there's a grinder here that grinds it into a fine powder. And then we end up with, of course, the cement. And then the cement goes into bags. Okay. Now, of course, we keep going, and in the concrete production here, we've got cement coming in here, we've got water coming in, we've got sand, we've got gravel, and then we've got another big process here. It's the concrete mixer, and that's mixing, right? So again, very quick, when you practice before your exam and you're training your eyes, you should be able to figure out that here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 basically steps to this process. Now if you say 7 or if you say 5, it's not the end of the world. You don't have to freak out and go, oh my god, I'm gonna fail because I didn't say the number of right steps. So you don't have to panic, okay? So as long as you're kind of close to 6, you can always fix it after, especially in the computer-based exam, when you realize, oh, it wasn't 5, it was actually 6. You can just go back and correct it. Just keep that in mind, right? That, oh, okay, I actually missed a step, or I mentioned too many steps, okay? So it's 6 steps from raw materials to actually getting the final product, to getting the concrete, right? And of course, when you're doing this, you're already analyzing the diagram. So you're already starting to structure the information in your mind, right? Okay, so these 2 blueprints indicate 6 stages, okay, in the production of concrete. Now, of course, here we continue to pay attention to the question. It says, and materials, okay? So these 2 blueprints indicate 6 stages, and how many materials? So again, just count it up. So we've got limestone, we've got clay. Don't worry about the bags. We've got water. Okay. We've got sand. Yeah, we can say cement. That's what the first one is here. And we've got gravel, right? So we've got 6 materials, basically. Okay. All right. So these 2 blueprints indicate 6 stages and 6 ingredients, right? Ingredients, not just for food. You can have ingredients for other products as well, especially if it kind of looks like food. Now, do not eat concrete. But it is an ingredient-based concoction used for buildings, right, and structures. So these 2 blueprints indicate 6 stages and 6 ingredients. Instead of needed, Fong's like, no eating concrete. So instead of needed, we can use the word required to make concrete. Okay, I'm going to take that out. This is better. Okay. So, and then a little bit more in the introduction. What should what else should I put? Okay, so what else should I put in the introduction? What else would you put? I know what I would put. It's very clear for me what I need to do here, right? This is where some people are like, wow, I need to write 150 words, but this seems like it's a fairly simple diagram. Am I going to be able to write a good essay here? What do I need to do? Again, think about your reader, right? And you have to interpret here. You have to explain, expose. That's why it's an expository essay, what you're looking at. What else would you write here? I would write one more sentence. Take a look. I would write one more sentence here. Okay. All right. What would you do? So what would be one more sentence? I think one sentence for the introduction is usually a little bit short. For the introduction, I would recommend writing 2 sentences. It's quite awkward when an essay's introduction has just one sentence. It's not necessarily wrong, it's just a little bit awkward. So usually if it's just one sentence, then it becomes a part of the bigger paragraph, right? Yeah, very good, Fuang. That's exactly what I would write, okay? I would just write it a little bit clearer, but you have the right idea. It's the right information, Fuang, yeah. Why is one process for making cement? Fuang, can you answer that? Others can answer it too, of course. Okay, so Fuang says, well, maybe we should mention, even though it's fairly obvious, but we should maybe mention that one diagram shows the process for making cement and the other is for making concrete, right? So we can see that here. Absolutely. Okay. So here we can see that cement is a key ingredient. It's not the main ingredient, but it's a key ingredient in the production of concrete, and it takes effort to make, right? And so I would write that. So I would say the left diagram, or the first diagram, it's not a good idea to indicate location on paper. So I would do it as the first and the second. So the first diagram shows the steps needed to make cement, a key ingredient in the manufacturing of concrete. And the second shows the requirements, and I don't want to repeat myself, right? Because I use the word required already here. So even though the word requirements is a different word form, I want to think of a different way to say that, okay? And the second shows, and even shows, you see how I use shows here? Ideally, to get those high band scores, you want to paraphrase words. You want to avoid word repetition. Now, if you cannot think easily and quickly about a synonym for the word shows here, don't stop and stress, okay? Because that will break your train of thought. So you'll have difficulty writing fluently. Instead, just write shows and then always leave a couple of minutes, ideally. So before your 20 minutes is up, do your best to finish the essay in 18 minutes and then leave 2 minutes so that you can review your writing and catch some of these repetitive words, and then you can replace them with words like illustrates. Okay, there are lots of synonyms for the word indicate or show. Again, students, for those of you watching, in your premium package at aehelp.com, okay, you have your interactive course, and the interactive course will include tips for the writing section. So it will give you words for this kind of important vocabulary like shows. Let me see if I can quickly locate that for you. Yeah, so here you can see useful vocabulary for bar graphs, and then when you go through the course you'll find synonyms for shows like illustrates and depicts. So you can kind of see some of these words here that work in these graphs, okay? All right, so again, that's at aehelp.com, and you can purchase that through the website or even through YouTube here through Shopify. Okay. So don't repeat words, okay? Try to avoid that. You'll get better band scores because vocabulary or lexical resource is one of the key marking criteria in the writing section, okay? So indicates, in here it's, notice that it's indicate, there's no S because it's plural, it's two, okay? But here it's one diagram, so it shows with an S, and then here it's second illustrates with an S, right? Because it's singular. So singular verbs, S on the end, plural, no S. Okay. So, and the second illustrates the production of concrete. Okay, I haven't used that yet. So now we have our introduction. Okay, this is what Band 9 introduction should be like. Doesn't have to be the exact same, but something similar. So these two blueprints indicate 6 stages and 6 ingredients required to make concrete. The first diagram shows the steps needed to make cement, a key ingredient in the manufacturing of concrete, and the second illustrates the production of concrete. Okay, good overview. All right, now some of you are like, well, if that's my introduction, what's my overview? Okay, well, we'll get there, don't worry. Okay, so the overview are the main elements, okay? Now, this is a process diagram, so this is where you can use the words firstly, secondly, thirdly, and we'll use that in the analyses. But right now we want to do the overview. And the overview means that we need to identify the key features. So, okay, so what can you see? What do you see? Okay. All right. What do we see? Let's take a look at cement production first. And again, simple is beautiful. Okay. If it looks confusing, you're thinking too hard. It's the IELTS exam. This is not civil engineering, so you're looking at a simpler diagram than you would in university. You need to keep your thoughts simple. So in the overview, what would you write? Okay. Right. Domenico says these two blueprints illustrate the 6 stages, including crushing, mixing, rotating, heating, grinding, and bagging, as well as the ingredients such as water, cement, sand, and gravel used in the production of concrete for construction purposes. Yeah, that's not bad, Domenico. That's another way to do it. Domenico says the first diagram depicts the steps in the production of concrete. No, cement. Careful, Domenico. That would be an information mistake, and that would cost you. Okay, so the first diagram depicts the steps in the production of cement. Don't confuse cement and concrete. Okay, concrete is a secondary product. Okay, cement is a primary product. Okay. And then especially because you repeat concrete, Domenico, you say, and the second one provides information about the materials involved in the production of concrete. That would be really confusing, right? Okay. So What do we write in the overview, everybody? What do we see? Okay. Anahita says, overall, a complex system is used in cement production. Anahita, I would almost save that for the summary of this essay. Okay. I think there's something else that's a bit more obvious here. Okay, limestone here. Okay, again, simple thoughts. Limestone and clay. Those are what? What would you call limestone and clay? Okay, again, I'm challenging your English here. And of course, you do need a bit of vocabulary, but you don't need specific vocabulary. So, you know, if somebody is sitting the IELTS exam and they're like, oh, this is not fair. I mean, I'm not a construction worker, an engineer to write an essay. No. This is common knowledge. It's everyday knowledge. You need to kind of keep it simple. Fuang says they're fossil fuels. No, Fuang. Limestone and clay are not fossil fuels. Do not put limestone or clay in your motorbike or in your car, because that will be the end of that machine. Guaranteed. There are a lot of materials you should not put in your car or your motorbike. Limestone and clay at the top of that list. Okay, your engine will literally just go bleh. All right. They're not substances. They're, you know, we could call them substances, but there is another way to say it. Starts with an R. 2 words. I would say that they are raw materials, right? They're raw materials. Okay. So I would say at first glance, it is clear that, and now, of course, this essay is mostly present tense, right? Because it's general. It's not this company made concrete 5 years ago. It's true now. It's true yesterday. It's true tomorrow. It's true 5 years ago. This is what companies do to create concrete, right? So, raw materials. At first glance, it is clear that the creation of cement requires a couple of raw materials and a number of steps involving machinery for mechanical or machinery using mechanical processes and heat to make the end product, which is then used with additional raw materials or instead of raw materials, we could say that another way. Now, this is advanced, of course. This is for those of you who are going for that band 9. Okay, natural resources. Raw materials are natural resources, like water is a natural resource. Gravel or stone is a natural resource as well. Okay, so pay attention to the vocabulary. I will underline this vocabulary in just a moment. Okay, so bear with me. Now, of course, you also notice that I'm creating quite a complex sentence here by using the adjective clause which, right? If you can't do it like this, you don't have the grammar skills, you're not confident, then just write it as 2 sentences, right? We could write this as 2 sentences, okay? To ultimately end up with concrete for production purposes. Okay? So this would be my overview. At first glance, it is clear that the creation of cement requires a couple of raw materials and a number of steps involving machinery using mechanical processes and heat to make the end product, which is then used with additional natural resources to ultimately end up with concrete for production purposes. I wanted to say for construction purposes. So we've got the collocation here, raw materials. Keep that one in mind. Okay. Mechanical processes. Mechanical processes are like crushing, grinding, mixing, chopping. So anything that takes like a bang, 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 boom, 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 pow, pow, pow. Okay, all of those are a mechanical process. Okay. Yeah, Domenico, exactly. So your school in Liverpool was giving you some good information there. Yes, exactly. This requires present, mostly some present perfect potentially because it's general tense, right? Okay. All right. And natural resources. So natural resources are ingredients from nature, like water, oil. Okay. Sand, rock, trees. Those are all natural resources to ultimately end up with concrete for construction purposes. Okay, fantastic. So now we've got our introduction and our overview. These two blueprints, and notice how I keep going back and reading over them. That's exactly what you should do when you're practicing for task 1 at home. In your exam, go over each paragraph after you finish reading it, and hopefully you have time to go over all 3 of them one more time at the end. But it's more important to go over each one after you finish reading it than to go over the whole essay at the end. So if you're really running out of time, and you have reviewed each paragraph after you finished writing it, you don't necessarily have to read all 3 of your paragraphs after you're finished. But it's important that you read them at least once after you finish each one. Okay? Probably like, why is Adrian just saying that right now? The reason why is because after you read it, when you just finish that paragraph, it's more likely that you'll catch mistakes and you'll have better ideas than if you're reading it after you finish the whole essay. Does everybody, is that clear? Should I write that down for everyone? This is it's an important tip. Okay, so review each paragraph after you finish writing it in the actual test. Okay, I see a couple of thumbs up there. All right, so review each paragraph after you finish writing it, and you should do your best to review the full task 1 essay before you move on to task 2. Okay, but if you don't have time, you can forego that step. Okay, it's more important that you leave time for task 2. Right? So, again, here's our paragraph. Keep an eye on that all the time. So these 2 blueprints indicate 6 stages and 6 ingredients required to make concrete. The first diagram shows the steps needed to make cement, a key ingredient in the manufacturing of concrete, and the second illustrates the production of concrete. Notice my use of comma. Why do I have comma on the 2 sides of this phrase, everybody? This is again testing your English. It's very important. If you want a band 8 or a band 9, these commas have to be present. Okay, why is there a comma here and here? Can anybody tell me that? So watch the sentence again. The first diagram shows the steps needed to make cement, a key ingredient in the manufacturing of concrete, and the second illustrates the production of concrete. Yeah, Anahita, exactly. It's a definitive or additive clause. Okay, so when you define or you add a piece of information, okay, then you need a comma on both sides. So this phrase is kind of added into the sentence to give it more content, to give it more clarity. And so you need a comma on both sides of this additive clause. Okay, so make sure, this is again another important tip. Okay, you have to, for high band scores, everybody 7.5 or higher, you have to have good punctuation use. Okay, so tip for, I would say band 7 or more, you need a good, you need a good use of punctuation. Commas are very important. For example, use a comma at both ends of a definitive or additive clause. Okay, everybody clear on that? Yes? Yeah, exactly, Domenico. So Domenico says it's an additional clause that provides further information. Yes, exactly. Okay. All right. So that looks good. And then the next sentence, at first glance, it is clear that the creation of cement requires a couple of raw materials and a number of steps involving machinery using mechanical processes and heat to make the end product, which is then used with additional natural resources to ultimately end up with concrete for construction purposes. Good. Now we go through the steps. Now we get to the main part, right? The main part here. All right. So let's do this. So we've got this part here, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So we've got 6 main steps here. And that's what we do. Anahita, yes, you should. Anahita's asking, should I use a comma even if it isn't a full phrase, if it's just one word that's being added? Absolutely. Okay. Yes, there are those situations, Anahita, and you still need a comma on both sides if that one word is an additive word or an additive clause. Yes, definitely. Okay, so how should we start our analyses? So analyses, okay, for those of you who are a little bit newer to the IELTS Task 1, the analyses is the main, analyses is plural for analysis. We're doing multiple analysis, so analyses. So analyses is basically it's usually about 5 to 8 different points that each become a sentence, roughly. Sometimes they're combined, sometimes 2 points will be one sentence, but it's roughly 5 to 8 different points that each become a sentence with clear structure to explain the details of the graph. Okay? Now it has to have clear structure. So how should I start this, members? What should I write first? What would be what word should start this analysis? So right now we're going to write about this, and you can write the full sentence. You don't have to just write the word. Right there. That's number 1. What do we do? How do we write it? Okay, I don't want to write this for you. My goal is to teach you to fish, not to give you fish. Those who only get fish before the IELTS have a difficult time because nobody gives you the fish during the real test. So you need to learn to fish so that you can catch the fish during the real test. Of course, that's an analogy, meaning I want to teach you how to do this on your own and not just looking at a template. Yeah, so Fuang says we should use the word firstly, right? And Fuang, remember, present tense, not will be. Okay, so we're not jumping to the future. It's are. They are combined. Okay. So, firstly, and this is where you can use firstly correctly. A lot of times, students use firstly, secondly in all kinds of diagrams. Firstly, secondly should be used for flowcharts and for process diagrams. Okay, that's another important tip. In university, your professor will catch you on this if you're using firstly, secondly when it's not a process essay. Okay, so there's another important tip. The terms first or firstly, second, third, next, then, finally, are best used for process essays. Okay. All right, good. So here we can say, firstly, clay and limestone are combined in the crusher to make a fine powder. Okay. Or it's not really a fine powder. I have to be careful because you can see later on there's the grinder. This is where I like the computer-based version of the exam because it's easier to quickly change my mind and fix these. With the paper-based exam, you just have to draw a line through it like this and then write the word above. So if I were doing the paper-based exam, I would do that and then write mixture. Okay. If I don't want to use the word mixture, I can use another word here. What's the other word that I could use? Okay, what is another word that I could use instead of mixture? Now, students, make sure that while you're thinking of that other word, make sure that in the paper-based exam, you don't do this. Okay, that's messy. It's inappropriate. Usually, like in Canada or the US, UK, Australia, teachers will let students know that you should not do this kind of correction. It's just one strike through. Okay, just like that, just like on the computer. Okay, firstly, clay and limestone are combined in the crusher to make a, instead of mixture, if I don't want to use mixture, what else could I use? To make a, okay, another word I could use is compound. It's a nice vocabulary here, compound. Okay. Combination is a little bit awkward on a HITA. I wouldn't use that here. No, not smooth combination, compound. Okay. So the better word is compound here, right? So firstly, clay and limestone are combined in the crusher to make a compound. Okay, it's compounded, right? To make a compound, which then passes through a mixer. Okay. So notice the use of vocabulary and verbs here. Okay. So limestone and clay move through the crusher to create a compound which then passes through a mixer. Okay. All right. Next step. Write with me here, members. So I'm going to move along a little bit more smoothly here, step by step. Write with me, and I will check your writing, okay? So I will look at it. Try to focus on what you're writing. Try to ignore what I'm writing firstly, and then compare it after, okay? So next, this mixture is moved through a rotating heater where the temperature is significantly raised to remove any moisture. Okay, so it's going through the heater obviously to remove moisture, right? So that's one of the reasons we can infer that, because that's usually what happens when we heat up any kind of mixture is we remove moisture, right? So the water evaporates from the mixture. Okay. So next, this mixture is moved through a rotating heater. And instead of moved through, because I have passes through here, is processed further in a rotating heater where the temperature is significantly raised to remove any moisture before being ground into a fine powder via the grinder. What is this shape, everybody? Help me out here for a second. This shape that I can see here. Let me redraw it for you. It's this shape. I'm going to really test your Band 9 level vocabulary here. So what is this shape? Ooh, very nice, Anahita. I was looking for just the noun, but you actually gave me my end goal, which is the adjective. So it's a cylinder. And if I use this as an adjective, it's a cylindrical grinder. Very nice, Anahita. You get a big thumbs up for that one. You got that fast. Yes, via the cylindrical grinder. Okay, very nice. In the final stage of making cement, the powder is put into bags. Now, notice here, everybody, that when you have a process like this, you're going to end up using the passive voice. That's also an important grammar here to pay attention to. So I just said the powder, the cement powder, is put into bags, right? By who? By machines, by factory workers, by somebody. We don't know the agent of the action. We just know that it ends up in a bag. So we're using the passive voice. It's very important, everybody, that you are comfortable using the passive voice for those high band scores in task 1 and task 2. So here's another tip for you. There's a grammar tip. Okay, so tip. Be sure to learn and use the passive voice in grammar effectively. And here's a good example of that. Okay. When the agent of the action is unknown or unimportant, but in this case it's unknown, you must use the passive voice. Okay. So the passive voice uses the be verb and the past participle. Okay, so in this case, put is an extraordinary verb. It's put. There's no putted. Putted. So here, the powder is put into bags. This is actually a passive voice, so pay attention to that. Okay. Domenico writes, the process of making cement begins with the addition of raw materials such as limestone and clay. Don't use such as, Domenico, because that means like for example. It's not for example. If you're making cement, it's definitely limestone and clay. You can't use anything else. Don't use sugar, Domenico. It won't work. Okay? So it's not such as, it is. Okay? So the process of making cement begins with the combination of raw materials, comma, limestone and clay. Okay, these materials are combined and crushed through a crusher, resulting in a fine compound. Yes, Domenico, don't forget the steps though, right? There's still the mixer, the rotating heater, with the flame, the fire being added there, so don't miss those steps, okay? All right. I know some of you are like, why do I have to write an essay about making concrete? It's good to know. You walk on it all day. Know what it's made of. All right. So is put into bags. Then this cement is combined with water, sand, and gravel to make concrete. According to the second diagram, a mixture of concrete requires 25% sand, 50% gravel, 10% water, 50% cement. Now, let's be a little bit more creative. 25 is 1/4. 50% is 1/2. And then the rest is 10 and 15%. Okay, so interpretation gets you those high band scores. Anytime you have the chance to interpret and not just say 50%, but you can say half of the mixture, you're going to get a better score. Okay, the examiner will catch that. They'll go, oh, that's interesting. They realize that half of that is gravel, a quarter of it is sand. Okay, so according to the second diagram, a mixture of concrete requires 1/4 sand, half gravel, and 1/10 water, with 15% being cement. Okay, in summary, producing concrete is a two-stage process that needs a complex production of cement as its key ingredient. Okay? All right, that would be my summary. That summary is quite obvious. Some of you might be like, how did he just come up with that summary like that? Well, it's quite obvious, right? So we've got a concrete production here, and that's what the overall end goal of these diagrams really is. And we can see that concrete production is relatively easy. That's why you can make concrete at home. You just buy the cement. Can you make cement at home? Yeah, not so much, right? Well, you can try. I don't recommend it though. And it's dangerous, so be careful. So making cement is usually done in a factory, but you can actually create concrete at home. So you can buy cement, you can buy water or have water. You can get some gravel, get some sand, and then you can produce your own concrete. I've done it. I've helped my dad to make some concrete for some construction around the home, but you obviously have to purchase this because this is a much more complex process, right? Now, again, just like I said, you have to review, right? So firstly, clay and limestone are combined in the crusher to make a compound which then passes through a mixture. Next, this mixture is processed further in a rotating heater where the temperature is significantly raised to remove any moisture before being ground into a fine powder via the cylindrical grinder. In the final stage of making cement, the powder is put into bags. Then this cement is combined with water. Now, did you know that put into bags can be actually a verb, is bagged? Okay. So bag can be used as a verb. Did you know that? I bagged the groceries. Okay. Means I put the groceries into a bag. Now, how about if I use that as an expression in a different context? If I say I am bagged, what do you think that means? This is an idiom or an expression. Anybody know what that means? I am bagged. Just some fun learning here. Making sure you pick up all the vocabulary. Domenico, I love how you're writing. That is so cool. Okay. All right. Really well done, Domenico. Domenico says next. Okay, let me see here. Domenico says the process of making cement begins with the addition of raw materials, limestone and clay. These materials are combined and crushed through a crusher, resulting in a fine compound that then passes through a mixer. Next, the resulting mixture is shifted through a rotating heater to remove moisture by deliberately raising the temperature before proceeding into a cylindrical grounder, where it is ground into a fine powder. Domenico, you have a very important missing word there. Where, because it's the location in this case, it's the location of the machine, where it is ground into a fine powder. Yeah, Fuang, very good. It means exhausted. I'm bagged means I am exhausted. Okay, very common. You look tired. Yeah, I'm bagged. I just ran a race. You look tired. Yeah, I'm bagged. I just worked 8 hours and ran a marathon. Okay, that's what it means. It's not to do with tolerance. It's to do with being exhausted. So Fuang, you get my second huge thumbs up. in today's class. Okay. All right. Domenico, just do it in 2. Okay. All right. So looking good. The essay looks good. Let's do a word count. Okay. The word count is 209 words. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Around 200 words for that band 9. 150 is minimum. Usually at 150, essays are not a band 9. Okay, almost always, I would say. Okay, band 9 is closer to 180, 200 words. All right, keep that in mind. Okay, so this is looking good. Now, if you would like to kind of do something fun and learn how to write process diagrams in a good kind of English type of lesson, this comes, I think, from the Discovery Network here in North America. It's called the How's It Made series. And this is a great way to learn for these production essays. Check this out, everybody. You see me kind of bring up YouTube here, right? And I just typed in, let me show you. I just typed in, how are pencils made? Okay. And check this out. You're going to like this.
Enough not to bend under the writer's hand pressure. This German pencil factory uses cedar from California. The wood is 0.2 inches thick and arrives pre-cut in slats of 7 by 2.5 inches. One by one, the slats pass under a giant cutting wheel.
You hear that? One by one, the slats pass under a giant cutting wheel. So it's literally like the verbal version of what we're doing right now, but here it's not concrete, it's pencils.
It carves grooves that will become the channel down the middle that holds the lead.
It carves grooves that will become the channel that holds the lead. Okay, so every time I hear it, I repeat it. Okay.
The next machine fills the grooves with glue.
The next machine fills the grooves with glue. Notice the comma, a special formulation that's slightly elastic.
A special formulation that's slightly elastic. This cushions the lead so that it's less likely to break inside the channel. Every second slat moves on to another conveyor.
Every second slat moves onto another conveyor belt. Look at that great vocabulary, conveyor belt. So the key point here, everybody, is that it's a kind of a fun note to end this one on, is that to learn great English, look for this series. It's called How's It Made? And there are some fun ones, like How's It Made Chocolate, for example. How's It Made Trumpet? I've watched a lot of these. They're actually very entertaining. It was a very popular series, and I love how they put it up on YouTube. So tip, to learn lots of great vocabulary for process essays, engineers, all you engineering and computer science students out there, this is a really good one. It's good for a lot of other majors as well, right? Because process diagrams are a big part of a lot of different majors, including marine biology, right, Domenico? So to learn lots of great vocabulary for process essays, search How's It Made on YouTube. Okay. For example, how's it made pencils? There are lots of them. You can just type them in. Okay. All right. It's a really good one. Students, that's task 1, process essay, the production of concrete. I hope you enjoyed that class, and I hope you picked up a lot of good vocabulary. Again, for lots more essays and essay writing and tips, do go to our website. We've got so many awesome writing tasks there for you. You can click on this green button, the Task 1 Writing button, and here you can, for instance, see the question for the water cycle. So the movement of water on the surface of the earth. So condensation, precipitation, evaporation, and so on. You can practice that writing on the website. Again, in your premium package, there are a lot of goodies for you. So if you like these lessons, if you're here regularly and you want to maximize your learning, everybody, then join the premium package by clicking the big red button that's just above my head there. Click, click. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access. We are world leaders when it comes to IELTS. We focus on real, useful, effective English materials and communication. Our goal is to help you to be smart, be productive, be effective, and be successful. General IELTS, gieltshelp.com, green background. Again, click that big red button to join the premium IELTS package. Students, I'm coming back in about 45 minutes, so a little over half an hour, and we're going to do writing task 2 for subscribers. So subscribe to the YouTube channel to join that class, okay? That will be an interesting task 2 question for today. Again, aehelp.com, academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com, general IELTS. Members, I appreciate you and I appreciate your contributions. And Carolina is just reminding everybody that you can buy these courses through Shopify on YouTube. Absolutely. Thank you for reminding us of that. See you soon, everybody. I'm Adrian. I'm checking out right now, and I'll be back shortly. Goodbye.